I personally have been sort of uh, very loosely involved in a makerspace in the past in a different city, and had a couple of friends that were more involved. So yeah, it's a dream seed right now, perhaps.
Excellent. I love that I stole that term and now I'm like introducing it all to I planted the dream seed of the dream seed term. It's very macro to
That's
all
really
of you.
good.
Very, very meta.
I also like
It's
the
gone
phrase
viral.
earlier. Someone earlier said something like throwing a rock and seeing where the ripples go. There's some good metaphors today.
Yeah, yeah. Paige, do you want to introduce yourself and just see if there's, either if you're here as a kind of a new person or kind of established?
No, I'm kind of with Teresa as well, just kind of trying to see where I can fit my skill set of like, I have a master's in teaching, but then I kind of did a pivot, like everyone's pivoted now, into kind of more mending textile artist kind of arena. So
cool. And what area are you in?
I'm in Northeast Seattle.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And then it looks like we got the Tacoma Tool Library on here as well. Do you guys want to, is Hayes a first name?
Yes. Hayes
Welcome.
is my first name. Yes.
And Hayes, do you feel like you're in this session as an established organization or more ask questions or some combo?
Well, probably more if somebody wants to get a tool library started. We had to go through all that. So.
Okay, great.
I sat with Hayes for like 2 hours one day when in the Tacoma Tool Library, and I just asked him a bunch of questions. So thanks for joining. Good to virtually see you, Hayes.
I think that is one of the that's one of the things that I love about this group is I feel like everybody is just so willing to share information and collaborate and say, you're like, nah, we tried it this way and it didn't work, or this is what we're doing currently and this is why. I think that's pretty special. All right, some of you have got to have like a cool question you want to ask the rest of us that we can answer for you.
Bruce, do you mind hitting recording? Just so we have it for later. Thank you.
I don't have permission to do that. I'm sorry.
It should be recording on mine. It says
got
recording.
it.
It's recording.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Amy.
But
Tara,
I am keeping this, I'm up to like line 7 on the spreadsheet, so I'm keeping details.
Sarah, Tara, I want to know how you have 216 fixers. I want to know how that's.
Well, okay. So first of all, I have to say the big caveat is that I started with 99. So that's a huge caveat. And I honestly don't know. I should ask my predecessor, just like, how did you guys come up with 99 people? And then we just do press releases, honestly, and have really great events. And I really haven't added all that many people since the pandemic hit, because we're not doing things the way we normally did them. And so really what we've done since the pandemic hit, I would say, is more, I guess, hyper focusing. We've got, there's 216 people in the database, and I occasionally reach out to all 216, but really I would say it's much more like 25 to 30 maybe of these dedicated people who are engaging with me roughly weekly. They're coming to the workshop to pick up things, they're dropping off things that have been repaired, they're picking up parts that the clients have ordered and had sent directly to me. So that's kind of how we're doing things now. And the growth that we had when we were doing in-person events and having a lot of press releases that were going out has very much stagnated. The nice thing for me is that I haven't really lost anybody either. I mean, well, actually, I guess I don't know that at all, because I haven't had to like gather 35 to 40 fixers, which is what we normally have for a 2-hour event. I'm hoping that they're all still there. I'm hoping I can make it to 35 or 40 when and if we do go back to in-person events. But like I said, it's kind of this dedicated set of volunteers that that have been doing, like, I have one guy who does all my lamps, and he took 14 lamps one week. And And then I have one guy that does all my sharpening, and I have one gal that does
county-wide, right? Like your county's pretty expansive. I don't know much about
it is. Yeah, it's very big.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we serve the whole county, or we try to. I do
Right.
my best to.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So are people dropping things off to have them fixed and returned, or just donating them to have them fixed and?
No, I don't accept anything that people don't want back. Well, that's not entirely true. I might accept something if it was like particularly cool and I knew it can turn it into a lamp. I would take it. I also have accepted a couple of sewing machines. I don't know what I'm doing with them yet, but I couldn't say no to them, especially because one of them is a quilting machine that's like at least an $800 machine. So I just said yes, because I figured I would kick myself later if I said no. But yeah, so we have the Repair Goes Remote program. We are working with 4 local library branches. And so they are doing drop-off events for us. And then we go pick up in bulk from them, bring it back to my workshop, which is the basement of my visitor center at the Environmental Education Center that I work at. And it's a space that I've commandeered. And then the fixers come and pick up, and they assign themselves to whatever they want to attempt to fix. They take it home, fix it in their own space at their own pace, and then return it to me when it's ready. And then we return it to the library branches, and the clients can pick up whenever the library is open. That's what we're doing right now.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
And is this a free service?
Yep.
For people? Okay.
Yeah, we're grant funded. So Department of Ecology PPG grant pays my way, and then everything else is volunteer.
What about parts? If there are parts required?
We spend our own money on parts. We ask for donations, but I never try to make it like a big deal of like, we used a $10 socket in your lamp. I don't care. It'll come back to me some way, and I don't have time to worry about that kind of thing. And then if it's a part that's a specialized part, what we do is, because we're doing remote and because I have pre-registration, which means I have emails for every single client. If there is a part needed, I would send them a link and say, if you want to invest in this part, buy it online, send it directly to me at work. I will get it to the fixer and we'll get you a repaired item. And we do that roughly, I'll say on average weekly. There's probably one part coming in for me weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And do you have, are you open to donations? Like
monetary, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But is that what you were asking?
Yeah. We get plenty of donations. Like, thank you for all the things that you couldn't finish or want to get rid of. But yeah, I can see a lot of people would want to contribute to an effort like this. So even if they're getting it for free, they're like, oh, this is more than worth it. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'll say something really quick too about donations, and that is, if you have a donation bucket, A, make sure it's see-through, and B, seed it with money. Do not have an empty donation bucket at an event. It has to have like some, and we actually ended up, apparently you're not supposed to print money. Shocking, right? But we learned that because we were printing fake money, so we could have fake money in the thing. So I didn't have to like do the whole like checking out money and checking it back in, this whole thing.
I think it's a minor felony. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a felony.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense, but yeah.
I only know that because in high school, the shop teacher wanted to show off how great the new printer was and did that for my high school. So that was fun to have the feds come in and raid. I was going to ask you a question and then I got distracted by fake money. Oh, I was going to say, we call those art projects, all the junk that we have donated. We have A-team tools, B-team tools, and then we have C and then art projects. But I love the lamps. I have to say, Tara, I love the lamps. And I just wanted to ask the other gentleman that were just talking, Jeremy, you mentioned about a tool library. You were going to start a tool library. Did you have a question about that? We have a couple people in here that have done that.
Yeah, I'd love to know, did you build the database from the ground up? Is it pencil and paper? Is it all account based? Are there fees involved? I know there's a bunch of different solutions we've looked at, and some work a lot better than others.
There's
And
some
can be more
models.
expensive time or price wise.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different models. Most of them are based around the membership fees. We are in Federal Way, which is one of the most diverse cities in King County. And we have a barrierless model as the South King Tool Library. We do not require a membership fee. We request donations. And then we actually use that data point to testify to our grant funding. So we're also funded by the Department of Ecology Public Participation Grant. And now we also have funding from the EPA's Sustainable Community, Resiliency and Sustainable Communities. So we've found one way to kind of substantiate like having one of 2 paid employees running a tool library. And then we do use My Turn, which is like the 400 tool libraries around the world do that. I could do a commercial for My Turn. I've talked to Jean a bunch of times. Tova's smiling because I know she's looked at My Turn, and it's quite expansive. They don't come prepackaged with a tool library type inventory like what you should have or typify, but I've always had a goal of having a tool library in a box and making ourselves a replicable model. So I'd love to connect with you in a different capacity. I'll put my email in the chat too. And I mean, yeah, you can get real in the weeds with inventory, and that's what a lot of tool libraries I feel like do. And no offense to any other tool libraries, but they very much are focused on the inventory, and we have done a lot of other things as well to substantiate that and then grow the targets that could connect with people. So doing things like green living classes and circular, like we did a whole closed loop kitchen process. So we did pickling, canning, dehydrating, and a closed loop kitchen that was bitters and broth making. So we did 4 classes about that. We've done sewing and mending, virtual repairs, and yeah, clothing swaps, game swaps, that kind of stuff. So it's like, you know, expansive in that way. You're already a makerspace, so you probably don't want to go that far, but it might be really in like natural synthesis to have you incorporate the tool library aspect. So sorry, did we miss any questions?
No, but good notes to take there.
Yeah.
So Amanda, you're not using, it sounds like you're not using My Turn, correct?
Oh, we are using My Turn. Yeah.
Oh, you are? Okay, okay.
Just not to its fullest potential. And I don't think, none of us are, because we don't know what the emissions offsets for inventory are. But we've just kind of plowed forward with, some of our inventory doesn't have pictures, some of our inventory doesn't have details and manuals. So there's pros and cons, then we have to kind of individually look up for people if there's necessary things. Somebody from Vashon was asking about repairing brushings on electrical motors that were sealed, and I was like, nothing's sealed, buddy. You just cut it open. Because we, had to repair brushings on miter saws and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, there's My Turn. I just have a I don't know, love-hate relationship with it, because it exists and it's geared towards tool libraries, but there's not like all right, here's your, you have a table saw and you just put in the stats for table saws. You have to enter every single process. And I know, Bruce, you've worked with, I think, do you guys use My Turn?
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like,
oh, I've entered things. I mean, I only interfaced with My Turn, I think, within the last year. So I'm still kind of intermediate on it, but I've had to enter things. I had to pull them out. I had to figure out how to bring something home to repair as opposed to trashing it. I just couldn't stand the thought of trashing a come along, so I repaired it.
Yeah, and you can put things into maintenance. You can add manuals to it. Hayes can attest to this. Jeff moved all of their stuff from the Tacoma Tool Library into their new location and touched every single piece of it and updated it all into My Turn. And I was like, whoa, man, that is I kudos to you because
Well, a year ago, the creator of that, was on this, as you know.
oh yeah, Gene Homicki is extremely accessible. He helped start the West Seattle Tool Library. He was on the board of Sustainable West Seattle. So he knows how a tool library works, but My Turn has gone in a direction where they're doing all kinds of inventory management database stuff. So
Right.
that used to be my world. And I've talked to him a lot about like the blockchain that happens with My Turn and like, you can't delete stuff. And that's fun because, you end up with 5,000 things in inventory and you're like, well, I only have 2,000 things here. That's why, there's just potential for it to be an issue. It's definitely room for improvement, but they're constantly adding things. During COVID, they added reservations, which was extremely helpful for all the tool libraries. And like I said, this admissions thing, I mentioned it too many times, I'm sorry, but I'm really excited about it because it's going to change the game for us to be able to report and to be able to open up funding resources. And like there was somebody was like talking about trees, you plug into it. So
What's the durations feature?
the durations, you mean like reservations, sorry, I just
okay.
am a humble mouth here. So reservations allowed folks to reserve things and then come and pick them up on certain days, and people had it drilled down to time frames for that during COVID as well, so that they were minimizing exposure and that kind of thing. So
gotcha. Well, our main reservation was the time involved in management. So I'm curious on people's experience, and even if it's just like a ballpark, would this be one volunteer's full-time thing, like for 8 hours a week, or because we have a number of volunteers, and then we also have all kinds of areas that people want to be involved in. But I always saw it as like, well, one person would. I know at West Seattle Library, at one point there were one or two people who were like always there, always checking it in and out, and it was pretty time intensive. So
I can count on all my fingers and toes how many checkouts I've missed in the past 2 years. It's been mostly me. I missed one today. But there's a lot of, I couldn't possibly answer that for you because I don't know how much your inventory you have, because that's an allocation of time in and of itself to get it established. And you have checkouts and really discussions with people depending on the skill level that you're going to allow for checkouts. So a lot of the time I spend is talking to people about their actual projects and making sure that they have the right tool or all the tools, or maybe the tools that they're not sure they're going to use because they don't know what kind of they have. So then there's also the maintenance aspect of this, and Bruce can attest to that. He's a skilled fixer and all that stuff. And I have a planer that's sitting there. It's our only planer and it needs new blades, but I have to wait until it's sunny out because I don't have enough light on my deck to be able to fix just the blades on it properly. So there's a little bit of a can of worms. It would probably be a dedicated role for somebody if you're going to invest the time in training that. But having multiple people, if you're already in the space of letting people come in and use things, then you are halfway there when it comes to accessing people that know what they're doing. So I'm not sure what region you're in. I'm not sure how many, like I said, how many tools you have or what you're looking at doing. Then that's just another factor. But
yeah, and I might need to. I'm glad to see Bruce here. I've been meaning to reach out for a while. We just moved into the Wallingford area, so we're pretty close.
Oh gosh, yeah, you're spitting distance.
Yeah, we're right across from Gasworks in a warehouse. It's more than doubled our size, and we have a lot of people asking about that. But we may be able to send people in your direction. Maybe that's a conversation offline to see how we can work together in a couple different areas, because we have a wood shop and a bunch of tools. So I know you guys got that up in the last year, so we should definitely connect.
I'm going to interrupt and say, so Tova and then Mandy, you both have your hands up. So Tova, do you want to go first?
Mandy might have been before me. Mandy, did you have something earlier? Okay. Oh, I was just wondering with the My Turn page, if there's also, or if any of you all also help people connect, almost like the peer-to-peer in terms of trading tools, sharing tools, and resources, like just recently someone wanted to find manure, and so we were connecting them with the local farmers. Gardeners want manure, and so just like almost a bulletin board or a place where the people that we loan tools out could also post what they're looking for and connected that way.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah, this is
Experience
Hayes
with
with
that,
the,
or do you know
Yeah.
town?
well, this is Hayes with the Tacoma Tool Library. And yeah, we used to have a community bulletin board where people could, if they wanted to, could post, stuff. We did have a few like handy people. They posted because people would come in and ask to hire somebody to do a project. And we had a couple of members who wanted to be able to do that, and it worked out. Apparently they didn't foul it up. And we had, so there were things like that. There were some things that we didn't offer. There were some people. There was a company that did sharpening of kitchen knives, which I was surprised to find is super popular. If you want to get a bunch of people in your space, just tell everybody you're going to do knife sharpening, and it will fill up. So we did do that. We did offer, and people did use it. We also, we're in Pierce County, and they have the master gardeners. You mentioned manure, and so we did have some master gardeners on our list of people that were on that bulletin board, and so yes, that was something that we did do, and that tended to be really successful. We don't have it right now because we don't have people coming in and out. We're in the main library, and the main library is actually closed to the public, even though the rest of the branches are open, but the main is closed, and so we're not actually having people come in. And they're getting ready to redo their floor. And so we're not able to actually even say this is where this is going to be for now, because probably in sometime in the next 3 months, they're going to come and tear the place apart. So
Gracious.
That should be fun for you.
I was thinking of a hybrid bulletin board that's in person and online, if there's a way to do that. I don't know.
I wonder if you could have a webcam on the bulletin board, right? like a physical bulletin board, but have a webcam so you can check it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So
you probably find a broken webcam somewhere, one that no one's using.
Not in these Zoom days.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, yeah, but see,
I gave away my entire inventory.
Yeah, but you have to be careful because a lot of the already existing webcams don't work on Windows 10.
That's good to know.
And it's a bad idea to go surfing around the web for the driver that will work, because almost all of them are virus.
Yeah.
Right.
So
because it's a need that someone's trying to fill.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, I've, like you say, I have like 4 webcams, right? But none of them work on Windows 10. So
for the peer-to-peer thing, Tova, I was going to mention to Peter too. My Turn has a function that is called location, and I've been asking them. There's a few different things that I've been asking for a while. And sometimes they do little like wish lists, shout out to the 2 libraries to ask what they need, but the locations could be a potential way for tools to be shared from peer to peer, as far as you could have location A, and that could be your house, or for our circumstances, we have a storage unit that we still store donations in because we have such a big inventory. So you could have storage units, or you could have location A, B, C, D, and list them as separate things, but then have the detail drilled down in My Turn. And really, you could organize this as a program singularly and have it anywhere all over the country, because you could have this endless amount of locations. From an inventory management perspective, like when I used to run a warehouse, we would need to know exactly how many SKUs of, you know, what it was in a specific square foot. And there's a lot of other databases out there. SAP is the most popular one that drills down to really specific locations and tracks things really small, but you're talking about gigantic scale things. You know, this could be a spreadsheet that you have that could have a location. The tabs are the different locations that house different things. I think what you fall into there is like privacy and some liability stuff when it comes to sharing peer-to-peer, but managing that as a nonprofit and, you know, an organization that's going to keep things semi like Tara does by being the intermediary for the fixers. So she's receiving the donations from a person, another person fixes it, and they never meet. They don't even know each other's names necessarily. They might, because they might need to, you know, figure out how to use something, but you could use a My Turn as the removal of that, where you could upload, you know, pictures and images of how to utilize a tool. And I mean, the same could go for bulk items. That is something that I, again, have tried to work with My Turn on, but like even something like manure or compost or something, you can say that there's compost, whatever, you know, living, I don't know what the measurements are for that. I've do mostly learn how to compost, but the, you know, how much the volume is retained at certain areas, and then give people the information to check it out. You know, you're allocating who gets what in that same capacity. I'm all about kind of hacking systems that exist. So
we don't want to return the manure though.
No,
That's it. Checked it out. It's yours.
Quantities, you could have the quantity be a volume. Say you had 100 yards dropped by Cedar Grove is the guys here, and they were dropped in September, and then by December it was all gone because you delegated it out to 100 different people, and then you would have to maybe restart it with like a new date or something like that. Like I said, I'm all about hacking these kinds of, or like figuring out how to make it work within the systems that we have established. Because if you're using it for one thing, like Tova was saying, if you're using it for your farming equipment, then you know, using it for your other resources as well would be really nice and easy. I am interested because most tool libraries are limited to electric tools, and I've said that's a good thing, but the questions always arise when we look at more rural needs, especially when I've talked to Vashon. Gas powered is a like threshold we cannot cross. So farming equipment, I'm assuming you have lots of variables when you get to that. So I'd be interested to see what you're doing. Insurance, because that was always what we were told. That's not necessarily the case. So anyway.
Yeah, I'd be curious.
I'm gonna cut you off there, Amanda, and go to Mandy. She's been waiting a while.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. She just had her hand up.
No worries. Because I'm also interested about that last point that Amanda brought out. I was gonna ask, so I'm just getting our repair events started, and I don't know. So I'm in Port Townsend, and so our grant is for all of Jefferson County, and I don't know how familiar anyone is with this area, but like Port Townsend's this little like tiny peninsula, and then Jefferson County extends, and it extends across the entire Olympic Peninsula. But most of our community is like on the east side of the peninsula. Anyway, and there's like a really weird dynamic in our county. Like Port Townsend is like the very like fancy smancy old people that have retired here and have like are quite wealthy. And then you have like a lot of people that live in our rural community, right? And it can be very divided. Like a lot of the events and the money gets into like Port Townsend, and not to say it's not a lovely community of people, but we end up with a lot of the like things, right? And so part of with this grant was I really wanted to get these events like spread out to everyone. But then there's also that idea of, it's just something I've been sitting with a lot, is like I also don't want to be like, oh, here's Port Townsend coming out to the rural like to save the day or whatever it is. And so, and it was a really interesting point that was brought up in the earlier panel section of like, because it's what I've been thinking of is seeing what the needs of each of these communities are, because maybe they don't need repair needs necessarily, or their repair needs are different. But it's been what I've been stuck with is like how to be welcomed into it, but also and gauge what it is their needs are. And I don't know if any of you guys with your communities are similar, or if you've like figured out how to figure out what the needs are of those around you, or maybe that are further away.
I hate the idea of focus groups, but focus groups.
Right?
Or
I
do
might-
a remote. I mean, what if you did a remote in that particular area? I mean, just, you know, say, hey, we'd like to explore coming out to an area. How would you suggest we go about it? And you stakeholder it, and then let it happen. See what happens, and talk a lot to the people. So, what do you think of it? You know.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm stuck on is how, I mean, right now what I'm working on is finding there's lots of obviously organizations within all of these communities. And so I'm getting started on like reaching out to those organizations, but I don't know if there were other ways, is like starting the conversation with communities that you don't, like, sure, I live in Jefferson County, but I do live like closer to Port Townsend than any of those. And so I do know the Port Townsend community very well, but I don't know necessarily these other communities, and I don't know how to like get in there without living there. And so, I mean, I'm starting out by reaching out to those organizations, but I don't know if you guys had any other kind of ideas.
I have a couple suggestions for you, Manny. Take them or leave them for what they're worth.
Yeah.
One is kind of what Bruce just said, and I was actually thinking sharpening. And I said in the chat that sharpening is the gateway item, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got dull knives. Everybody's got dull tools. Like anybody can pretty much, I think anybody can benefit from sharpening. So if you can find somebody that would be willing to go and do that with you, that might be a really good in. And, you know, just advertise it like, hey, we're going to do this free sharpening event. You can bring like 2 knives and a tool or whatever, however you want to set it up. And then as Bruce was saying, you know, your job when you're there, I mean, yes, obviously you need to run the event, but your biggest job, or if you can find a really, you know, if there's a volunteer that you know is like really good at having these conversations, just that's their whole role is to like mingle, right? And like talk to people, like, you know, what if we offered up sewing repair, would that, you know, do you think you have, like, do you have any broken zippers at home? You know, just have those conversations and start to get a feel. I'm of the firm belief that nobody doesn't need repair. I don't think that's a thing. But I will say that a lot of people don't realize they need repair until they've had something sharpened. Yes.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, you do appliances? Oh, I've got a broken toaster. You know, I've got a this, that, and the other thing. And then I was going to say one other thing. What was it? Oh, I was going to say, be looking for things like churches and Grange halls. And, you know, these are what are the gathering places in these communities? Where are you, you know, can you attend a church service on a Sunday morning, or can you zoom into a church service, right? And just give your pitch. It can be 5 minutes, like, hey, this is what we're trying to do, you know, just trying to find out if this is going to be helpful to you or not, and if so, please reach out to me, or, you know, talk to the pastor, whatever the thing is. Those are my suggestions for you.
Very solid. You're right, sharpening is like
Everyone's got dull knives.
Everyone loves the sharpening.
And a sharp knife is a safe knife.
I've also been blown away by the number of things that can be repaired with just simple electronics that go out, and it's like a fried piece on a board. And that, in my experience, a lot of rural communities have experienced fixing physical things, mechanical things, but myself included, I'm not really an electronics person. And we had one person on our team who's like, oh, let's take it apart. And they pull it apart, and like we just had, you know, that projector screen on the wall, we lost the remote. And we're like, okay, they don't make it on Amazon anymore, because that's kind of the way things happen now. You buy it and then you can't buy parts for it. But we had somebody who knew electronics, could pull it apart and basically wired up a couple buttons and was able to fix that. So opening the door, if you have somebody on your team who knows like small electronics repair, that could open the door to a lot of things that people don't know that they can repair, but they can bring in broken things. And sometimes it's dead simple, like, oh, this is a little resistor, just need to replace this one little thing. And it's crazy how much things get returned. But
vacuums.
preaching to the choir here.
Vacuums.
Yeah, I mean,
Vacuums.
that's great for us as a maker. We've got our compressor, a vacuum, and most of them were just clogged or a gasket. It's great for makerspaces, but terrible for the planet.
And Mandy, I've got someone you got to contact up there.
Sounds great.
Joseph Bednarik, who was a minister at the Quimper UU Fellowship,
Oh yeah.
and they're going to be very much like-minded folk.
Okay. Will you message me his info or do you have it?
Hang on.
Yeah.
Let's see.
See, this is why we need a searchable database.
I know. That is a very good idea. It's
Well,
like
yeah, I mean, you'd never land on this one unless you had. I mean, yeah.
We only have a couple minutes left. Sharissa, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I just saw her hand. I was like,
No worries. I just had a thought as far as like you're talking about small electronics repair, like that's kind of like where my group would want to try to target it ideally, but like none of us who work there like have that skill. So part of the process is like, okay, who in our community actually knows how to do the things that we want to encourage? And there was earlier today, someone talked about like trying to search out like where are those people that have the skills you're looking for.
the Discord that Peter's doing with the intergalactic Fix It Clinic stuff would be a great resource for you because they
Yeah,
have,
that sounded cool.
But,
yeah.
You know, another thought is look for professions that require that kind of knowledge base. And so, you know, I think about like all the radio stations, the people that maintain communications for, let's say, first responders. They're going to be folks, you know, basically you look for a light by finding the shadows and then see where they come from.
That's a good idea.
You know,
Or a computer repair company that might want to promote their business as part of it.
Exactly. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, so we do have a computer repair company that supports us in a lot of ways. And I think one thought that some of my coworkers had was like, we don't want to compete with them. Like we don't want to compete with they're doing repair business. And there's like some kind
But
of
it
like,
could be